All right, welcome to the Underdog Ecom podcast, where two ecom brand founders are figuring out in real time.
Yeah, we're not here to preach. We're here in the thick of it, making mistakes, testing all sorts of ideas, and really sharing the journey of how we've been growing these brands from day zero. Hopefully you learn a little bit, perhaps come away with some ideas that save you time and money. And so if you're tired of the same glittery D2C advice from those 9-figure gurus, you're here in the right place.
Let's get into it. So welcome to episode 5. I think it's 5. Five. David and number 5. So yeah, David and I have got quite a lot to catch up on. We've been doing a few different things. We've both been traveling a little bit. Various different things happening. It's a fun time of year, I think, because things really start to pick up in ecom. So David, let me know what have you been up to the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's one of those periods where it feels like a million things happen in the last couple of weeks. But it's a million things that I can't remember because it's just been fire hose status. It does kind of feel like we're catching up. You know, Q1 it feels like is pretty much slow across the board for most folks, slower than the rest of the year. And so I think I've experienced that as well. And so I've been trying to do a few different things. Cash flow has been definitely a hard problem to solve in my brand behind the scenes. A lot of good things happening, but a lot of like tricky things that aren't doing so well behind the scenes, and one of those is cash flow. So I did take on a Wayflyer, added to my Wayflyer loan, unfortunately, like not my ideal situation, but that helped alleviate some of the cash flow issues. I've got some POs that I was waiting to pay, and then I've got some incoming receivables that didn't. It was like a week late on one of my wholesale orders, which kind of wasn't the best for cash flow. And then a couple other things kind of fell through. So I felt like I was in a crunch it was probably like 2-3 weeks ago, in a crunch and trying to solve the financing problem a little bit, talk to some really smart people and just trying to figure that out as much as I can. Took on the Wayflyer to pay down some of the Amex, and save some for the POs and that sort of thing. It seemed like the best offer at the time, is like the best of the worst kind of thing in terms of expensive, and it is going to help me reduce my daily cash flow hole, which is helpful for cash flow, because looking at a lot of the numbers, I didn't realize how much these revenue-based finance loans take, essentially. Like, you think about it, but then when you actually think about it, it's like, whoa, if I see that number in Shopify as the sales, you got to net out all the things and then net out 20 to 30% of that as well. Doesn't leave you a lot of food to eat at the end of the day. And so I think that's been kind of eye-opening to dig into a lot of the numbers. I know from a business standpoint, like, my strength is not necessarily financials and numbers. And if I could, I'd spend all my time designing new products, because that's my favorite thing. And doing a lot of the little branding things, my favorite thing. But getting nitty-gritty with the numbers is the most important thing to keep the brand alive. So that was a big focus a couple weeks ago. And then lately, it was like a week or two ago, I ran a big mystery sale. It was a recommendation from another really smart operator who I've been talking with, and it was interesting. So I had a lot of takeaways from this. I've done mystery sales in the past and mystery products, and they never really clicked. So I think in the past, I created a few different mystery boxes, sent out an email, did a little bit of marketing behind it. Might not have even ran paid ads to it. I think this was before I realized that you could run paid ads to sales, essentially, because the mystery box is essentially a sale. That was interesting learning that I picked up like a year or two ago. Don't know why I didn't know that, just learning everything as I go. So that was a light bulb moment. But so this one, hugely successful. The last time I did it a couple of years ago, I maybe got a couple orders off of an email, and that was it. But this time I decided to go all out, and so I did a lot of things. Like, I did a lot of emails, a lot of SMSs, prepped the funnel for it, did a lot of like the preparation and then send out things during it, did a lot of strategies. Like, we just restocked it, which was true, because the mystery box, I had 5 different price points, 6 different SKUs inside the boxes, because sizing's a big thing. And so that made it complex pretty quickly. My VA was really helpful in digging through a lot of that and helping backfill, like halfway through the sale, backfilling some of the boxes that ran out. So sending out restocked emails and notifications. And that helped. And then adding a discount at like the last day, saying, hey, everyone that, opened or clicked the email but hasn't purchased yet, here's an extra 15% off. and I just have too much inventory on hand. That's also been tricky operationally because it's apparel. So like I don't know exactly, I don't have the crystal ball to say like, oh, this type of shirt's going to work really well, this type of hat, or this type of design on this type of shirt. And so I feel like I've still been trying to solve what's going to do the best, and that ended up, based on my current run rate of like sell through rates, like I had months and months of inventory sitting around, and so I put into these mystery boxes items that, with apparel, a lot of times you end up with like a random extra small or an extra 3XL, and
Yeah.
you don't really want to have that on the site or anything like that. So I put those types of items in the mystery boxes. I put a lot of the best sellers, and they're crazy good numbers in terms of the people that are interested in them. Another big takeaway I'm learning is the ManyChat app, or whatever app you use for the comment and we'll DM you a link. We might have mentioned this before, but that's been working super well. I feel like it's a double whammy because people comment, which boosts it in the algo, and then they get a DM with a direct link to it rather than them, clicking
How you
on your
find it.
bio, getting distracted by like 17 other things, maybe clicking on the link, then getting distracted by 17 other links or things, and then like someone walks in and there's, I feel like there's so many different interruption points to that purchase flow versus ManyChat just sending a link. And so I've been using that for sales like this and a few other things, and it's been working super well. So I had a mystery box, I did a video and a post for it, and then ran some paid ads to basically just boosting the posts, but I created the ad in Facebook Manager. And I'm pulling up the numbers, but I was getting close to a 5 ROAS, cost per purchase $17, and ran that for like a week. And so it was really, really good in terms of numbers. And I don't see numbers like that in my account. I was going through some of my ads this morning, turning off ones that are really bad, and they're usually really bad, like 0.5 ROAS and stuff like that. And
So
so,
I got a couple of questions for you there. So how difficult was it to kit all those boxes up from a fulfillment perspective? Like because you said you had your VA helping with a lot of like the back end stuff, which is great. I think for first of all, I think for a VA to have that much product understanding, I think is really good. I think it's not easy to find people that can. I mean, they could. I think it's. I mean, I say it is easy. Over time, I think people learn, but it is hard to have like to get someone you've got that much confidence in. But I also wondering in terms of just like the kitting perspective of like putting together these boxes. Like, was that your shipping person to help with that? I like, were you involved with that as well? And how difficult was that?
yeah, it's to go back to the VA part, to be clear. I'm skipping a lot of steps here. Like this was actually a pretty involved sale. It wasn't just like a fire and forget kind of thing. The first step was analyzing what inventory needs to go out and what's overstocked, and that I went into Get Genie for that and looked at a lot of the numbers and the metrics behind things. Came up with a list of items, and then gave that list to the VA. Said like, create all the products in Shopify, create the images based off of this template, backfill it with a lot of, these are the items that we want to sell, so try and hit these price points in terms of value. Everything was 2x value at least, so it was like 50% off essentially, and it started at $50, went up to $200 in terms of the cost of the price of the box for the customer. Interesting enough, I saw I was gonna pull up the most sales, I think, was the $150 value box. Yeah, just interesting, which is 3 times my AOV. So the AOV during this time period was amazing. Myrrh and ROAS doing super well. Granted, 50% off is a big discount, but that was solving like moving inventory. And so there was a lot of back and forth with the VA and I trying to figure this out in terms of how to stock the boxes, because that was hard. I'm definitely gonna do this again in the future. And actually, one thought I had was creating custom boxes for this, because I've seen other brands do mystery box sales and they have like a really cool custom box for it. And the custom box maker that I use that's pretty cost effective is starts at 100 for MOQ. So I really want to design a custom box for that, which would be really fun. And I'm definitely going to do the sale again in terms of next year. And it seems like it falls in March, seems like a good time to kind of like, work out some of the inventory issues. There's sort of a, sales are a little bit slower. You're gearing up to get ready for summer, so you're putting in big POs because summer is really probably the busiest months for me besides November, December gifting season, and so it seems like it's a really good time to do it. Um, question two. So that was kind of the back end, a lot of back and forth with VA, a lot of work there. Question two was fulfillment. I didn't do anything myself here. I was actually out of town for most of it, which was awesome.
Wow.
Um, so there was a couple times when people would order and they would get double items inside the box. So they would order like a large this type box or like an extra large this type, or they'd order the same size but two different boxes, and a lot of it had combined items. And so I set up a Shopify flow to notify me if they had two of the same box, because then they would definitely get duplicates, and I would go in and edit those orders. And I told my shipping person, let me know if there's duplicate items inside the orders, because I'm going to go in and edit that, so don't ship it. So I kind of had some buffers there. But then also, if they ordered two different types of boxes but the same size, they'd also get duplicates, and so I'd go in and edit those orders as well. So there was a lot of hands-on during the sale to make sure that that was going smoothly. I did get a couple, at least one customer service sort of complaint where they didn't get a t-shirt and they thought they were getting a t-shirt because they selected 2XL and we didn't have any 2XLs left. They weren't too happy. They wanted a refund, but I think I massaged the situation and gave them a free shirt essentially that they were happy with, shipped them off that to kind of satisfy them and keep them happy. And that's the only issue I'd seen from a CX standpoint with it all. But yeah, it went pretty well. Just a lot of work, but the results were very positive. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and did you like communicate in terms of like everything was 2x value, or was that just like back end, like you wanted to make sure you gave 2x value in terms of like product, or people like knew they were going to get like two, like almost like basically 50% off?
Yeah, so I definitely, that was in all of the marketing copy across the site. Like across the product pages, across the emails, like definitely wanted to get that value there across to the customer, because the conversions were doing so well. And I think I really did a good job of conveying the value props behind the boxes, and like, hey, these are limited edition. Some of them have limited edition. These are handpicked by our team, and 2x value at least in some of them. Some of them had more than 2x value. So people are getting a lot of really sweet stuff for a really good deal. And I think that helped. One of those takeaways was, in the past when I've ran this, I didn't try hard enough. And it turns out when you try really hard or just sacrifice a lot of time and do it well, like things will go well. Oftentimes, not always.
I think that's really interesting. I want to pick back up on that at some point because I think I've found a similar thing. Um, One thing I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to ask you, going back really to the Wayflyer side of things. I know it's kind of a touchy topic, but the so is this like the Amex? If you don't mind me saying this, is this the Amex that you're still paying off, or have you kind of been reusing the Amex for certain expenses and it's kind of loaded back up? Because I'm in a similar situation, so I'm just interested to understand other people's behavior. It's similar to mine or not.
This is good. This is like a counseling session or whatever kind of thing. Let's figure out what I'm doing wrong here. No. Happy to share. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out. So yes, I've still, the Amex I got unfrozen. The Amex was frozen recently. It's been frozen a few times just because of the balance has gotten too high and I haven't had the cash to pay it off. And a lot of it has to do with marketing inefficiencies. I'm spending too much on Facebook ads that aren't giving the results that I want. And that over investing in inventory, having too much inventory in hand. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but that's kind of like the crux of the situation. So I had been funding a lot of this stuff, like buying t-shirt blanks and that sort of thing, spending Facebook ads, driving up that Amex balance again. And then and it was, I think this was when I was frozen, and I took the Wayflyer loan to pay down the balance as much as I could, basically, and then save some on the side. We've talked about AI in the past. I was using AI as sort of a CFO kind of thing, as well as talking to a few other people, but I didn't want to spend, I feel like sometimes I need like a full-time, part-time CFO, but can't afford that. So AI will do for now.
I feel entirely the same. Like in terms of like, I wish I had like somebody just like entirely in charge of finances.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's similar because I've got an Amex balance, so like that I've basically I think it's got like 10 grand on it, like in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
owed. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we're paying me like 500 a month in interest, which like it just
Mm-hmm.
kills me because that's
Yeah.
just interest. And
Yeah.
when I've taken money in the past, I've thought about paying off the loan. And I've done it a little bit. So I think it was at like 12 or 13 grand, and I brought it down to 10. And now I've kind of got this thing in my head that every month, as opposed to paying 500 off in interest, I pay like 700. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
actually was working this out on ChatGPT the other day. I think I've got to wait like another like 3 years paying 700 a month to pay it off or something,
Dang.
or even more. So like, obviously I hope I pay it off sooner than that. But like, it's just a killer to think that you're paying that in interest
Mm-hmm.
every month because that's
Mm-hmm.
meaningful amount of money. I mean, that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money. So yeah, it's kind of annoying,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes you do have to do what you have to do. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely looking at like what's on my P&L and everything, like the inventory or like the interest financing aspect and the fees that I get charged for not paying it off. Like it's definitely a huge thorn in my side and something I want to fix and do better at. But it is what it is right now. Just taking it week by week and trying to figure out the next best step.
yeah, sure.
Cool. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. Curious about what you've been up to, Jack.
Yeah, so two things. The first thing is that every year for the last like 3 years, I've been doing like a birthday sale. And so I try and I think this is a good time of year, like you mentioned, to do something like this. I think it kind of does coincide with Kancha's birthday, technically. And so it's a good time to do it, but also I think it's just the time of year when sales tend to work because there is the demand. I think if you do a sale, depending on your product category, obviously, but like if we did the same sale in January or February, it would get like the half the sales. So we're doing pretty well. The only problem I've got is we're out of half of our stuff. And so I was literally debating for so long whether to take like pre-orders of our because I've got like a wait list of some of these bags where I get emails every day asking people asking when is this bag coming back in stock. Why we don't want to wait any longer. And the people are saying I even get people like during the sale I got people asking me can we buy it at a discount or can I get the bundle because we have like a bundle offer as well? Can I do all this stuff now with a discount and you can just ship it whenever it comes in stock? I don't care. Like and things like that. And I was like so tempted to take pre-orders of the products. But I was trying to work it out in my head. I was like, but does that actually make sense financially? Because it feels nice to take those sales now. But if I'm doing it at a discount and I kind of know those people want to buy anyway, like it doesn't really make sense to take orders for that now when I can't ship it now at a discount. Like I know you could say, well, those you could technically lose those orders, and yeah, but I feel like we've got more demand, probably even the stock I've got coming in April and May. So I'm likely to run out of stock again. So I'm just like, so I decided in the end I'm not gonna fall prey to this. I'm not gonna put everything like on sale and on pre-order. First of all, it's gonna be a nightmare to keep track of it all. I mean, I mean, it is in a sense because it's just like customers, even when they know they're waiting, they just get frustrated. So I thought it's not going to be fun. We're going to take a 15 because we're 15% off site wide, so it's going to give a 15% margin off pre-orders. It's nice to get the cash now. I could really do with the cash now because I need to pay our suppliers and stuff, but I just don't think financially that's a good choice. So I didn't do that. But still it's been doing pretty well, and so it's really nice to see. And I have been running ads, and those have obviously been doing better. Emails have been doing really well. Um, and so yeah, that's been a good thing. I think it's just been frustrating in terms of not having product in stock because obviously we probably would have done like I reckon double, triple amount of sales if we had the product in stock. But it is pretty good. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether you think I've done the right thing there.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always good to have pent up demand and to have people waiting. I think a few things, a few thoughts. One learning I had a year or so ago, it might have been from like the Nine Operators pod or something like that, where basically one of those super smart guys was like,
Yeah.
it is almost virtually always, well, it is better. We'll get rid of those. It is better to be out of stock than to have too much. Like, inventory issues are always a problem, regardless if you're, super small or super big or whatever you're selling. Inventory issues are always a very difficult thing to try and solve. That's like one of the hardest parts about running an ecom brand like this. And it's always better to be out of stock than have too much. And I've definitely had too much in the past of certain things. And so I think that's awesome. And I think if I was in your shoes, I would say do the same thing. Like, stoke the flames of demand and wait for it to drop. And I think that will get people even more interested in it than rather than them. You want the people that are super, super down rather than the people that are flying by, sort of might place the purchase now if it comes eventually. But I think it sounds like your customers are really interested in it. And so I think waiting until you can drop the new stock restocks is smart. I ran a fundraiser for the national parks a couple weeks ago, which I can't remember if I talked about it in here or not,
Yeah.
but it was a pre-order. Literally, first line in the product page. In the cart, I wrote some custom code so it was added to the line items in the cart attributes, and it was not enough because I've gotten like a dozen emails about it saying where's my products and stuff, and it's I feel like pre-orders just no one reads on the internet, and pre-orders are a customer service nightmare always. But it is tempting to be like, oh, well, that's a pretty positive cash flow cycle because you can take in the cash now. At least that's how I do my pre-orders. I take the cash now and then wait for the products to come in. And it was my fundraiser was really awesome from a cash flow perspective because I didn't have to pay for the products yet and could buy exactly the right amount based on the pre-order because I closed it and all sorts of reasons. And it helps some of my cash flow issues and yada yada yada. But it I think the right call is to wait unless you really, really have to. And I know that for a lot of brands that are our size, pre-orders are kind of necessary, and there's a lot of reasons to do it to limit inventory risk and to, positive cash flow cycle. But I know that there's a couple really smart, like Dave Nash, a super smart operator. He's got a couple of YouTube videos that is just like, don't do pre-orders, don't be a brand that is always on pre-order, like that will destroy your business kind of thing and lead to more issues than you can have. And I think he attributes it to kind of being it's like not the best sign for a company's health, which I kind of agree with, for a lot of reasons.
I generally agree. I think it's used too often, and I've used it a lot. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's necessary, and I think you just have to just accept that you're gonna have some upset customers, and you're probably not gonna be able to meet the deadlines you say for everybody.
Yeah.
So I generally think from like a brand perspective, pre-orders aren't great, but when you're pushed against the wall, you have to do something, and if it's that and not bring a product out, I'd rather do pre-orders. That being
Yep.
said, this brings me on to my second thing. Is I've actually kind of pivoted with a bag we're launching for paddle or padel, I think they say in the US, which is growing a lot. It's the fastest growing sport in the world, and a lot of people are starting to play it in the US. Like a lot of it was pickleball in the US and still is, but padel is growing a lot in the US
Hmm.
and also worldwide. Fun sport, really social sport. People travel a lot for it as well, like take it with them when they're going to work. So we're launching a bag for that. And but I was kind of on the fence about how to do it. And I just kind of was looking at a few other brands I followed, one being Peak Design, and we talked about this about last week, I think. But they've done a lot of pre-orders, and that's a company that's doing, I think they're doing like 100 million a year. So they're like a huge brand, still using Kickstarter to fund projects. It's kind of insane. And of course, they've never taken any money as well, like in terms of investment money, so they have to do it. And yet, I think I used to think, well, why are they still doing this on Kickstarter? Like, why are they not like Kickstarter in some ways? I don't like the platform in some ways. It looks quite like ancient in terms of like just the way if you compare it to like a Shopify store, it's just like nothing in comparison. But there's something about Shopify that when you do it somewhere else, you do a crowdfunding campaign somewhere else, I think that the effect on your brand in terms of reputation is not the same. In terms of if you take pre-orders on your site, it like we talked about, it doesn't always look great, not great for brand image. Also, it looks like you're kind of struggling. Whereas you don't want like a platform like Kickstarter, and suddenly it's got a whole different vibe to it. And I actually did a crowdfunding campaign for Country at the very beginning when I first started it. It was a very small campaign. I mean, we did maybe like 10,000 or something. It was like when I literally just
Cool.
starting out, didn't have much of an email
Cool.
list or anything.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from that. But there's a buzz with doing those type of campaigns where because you build up to it massively.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to the Slack group, the Underdog Ecom Slack group, because we've had a conversation on there, and there's a few other guys, someone in Bags as well, who've done some pre-order campaigns and crowdfunding campaigns, sorry, and it was really interesting what they were talking about in terms of like there's some really interesting ways to do it. So when you build demand, instead of just like taking email lists, you make people pay like $1, like a reservation, and I bought the book by I think it's Launch Boom is the agency. I can't remember the name of the author now, but he has his agency, he does crowdfunding campaigns, and he talks about how like if you do that, it's like 30% of those people on average will then actually pre-order versus it could be like literally less than 1% if you just take random emails because just I guess it just gets people so involved in the process automatically, even though it's just a dollar they've put down. So I don't know. I'm planning to do that, and so that was my next piece of news. It's kind of like I'm trying to figure out how to do it, but it is a ton of work. Like
Yeah.
I've, I mean, it's more. I forgot about how much work it was even when I did it at a very small scale, like four or
Yeah.
5 years ago, and it's just like so much harder because like if you look at these campaigns, like if you look at like say Peak Design's Kickstarter campaign, you can scroll like miles and they've got like more stuff on their campaign and it just goes on and on and on. And I'm just like,
Yep.
how have you got together like so many assets? Like so
Mm-hmm.
many assets, it's insane. So I mean
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'll ever be able to reach that level, but I'm just trying to do like a fairly decent job of it. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I've done it as well is because I think it would just allow us to kind of bring in a like a different market that maybe we don't have at the moment. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's really fun. I think there's a lot of stuff to learn from it, but it is like I'm trying to shoot a video out here in Barcelona one night because it's a big Barcelona is really good for paddles, so there's tons of
Yeah.
courts, really nice weather. So I've got a friend who's a videographer. I think actually tomorrow, no Saturday, we're doing the video. I'll let you know how that goes. But yeah,
Cool.
it's a big process, but I'm hoping it goes okay. But yeah,
Oh, that's fun. That's exciting. I think you're totally right. Like the legitimacy of launching a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter is just 100x doing it on your own site. Unless you're a brand that can do that, or it, like frequently does that, and your customers recognize that, or you can like do a bunch of custom design work to make the web experience look completely different for crowdfunding
yeah,
it, just to like set it apart. Because yeah, no one reads, and it's like it just gets lost when it's amongst the rest of your catalog that's like shipping now essentially. That's so it is really interesting that Kickstarter and Peak Design are still working together. Like I'm sure they're getting some kickbacks and stuff like that, or like no platform fee or whatnot, because you're right. It seems like the Kickstarter golden age is a little bit behind us, but it is it is really interesting that there's huge brands out there that are still crowdfunding for products, which makes sense. Like their new Peak Design has a rabid fan base, like, and I'm one of them, and their products are amazing. Like the new roller bags look phenomenal. Like pretty much
yeah.
you get to a certain point where you've got this loyal base of customers. Well, they'll buy anything that you put out, which is like I want to buy one of those roller bags, even though I travel not that often and don't need one. But they look so cool, and you know that like, and I know as a Peak Design customer and fan for years and years and years, anything they do is going to be amazing. And that's kind of like typically the gamble when you're doing a pre-order. You're not sure like you know, part of it is the equity where you're like, oh, I'm helping this brand out get to the point where they can make this. I feel like I'm involved. Like actually, my brother, I don't know if he still does, but he funded so many Kickstarters because he liked being able to help out companies and rather than like try and invest equity or something like that. Like, hey, this is involving myself in the manufacturing process to help fund them from an inventory perspective to make the products happen. And there's some really cool ideas out there, but it's oftentimes cash short to make those ideas become reality. Um, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The thing I was going to say about that as well is like I think it's very right. It's that's the feeling it gives, and that's why I think Kickstarter still works to extent. Because I definitely
Yeah.
was like under the impression that like the golden age of Kickstarter ended like 5, 10 years ago. Like, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Mm-hmm.
see, I see suddenly see so many brands who've actually like even like Kickstarter, Peak Design's doing two or three a year. There's a few other
Mm-hmm.
brands in bag space specifically that I see that are
Boundary
still doing
supply.
Kickstarters. And I think there's just something like boundary supply. There we are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's the sort of thing. Yeah, where I think they're just. I think it's something's working, and I think potentially it's the fact that when you put yourself on a platform like Kickstarter, because it's a third party platform and it's not like your own. There's something about like almost like being vulnerable and public about it. And like if you don't raise, you don't raise. And when you put yourself out there, I think people just feel that's like there's like a vibe with it that you don't necessarily get when you launch a pre-order on your own site. Like you don't feel like you're supporting a product so much on a shop. You almost like it's almost like I don't know, the feeling is slightly different. So I think that's why it
Yeah.
still works. I think because actually the I don't know if you know of the I mean like I think they say on average Kickstarter campaigns give like an extra 20% of customers, which is meaningful, but then you have to give 5% to Kickstarter. So you're talking about really 15%. So, it's something, but then you can think, well, for that much work, is it worth 15%? But I think it's just I think those people that fund you through the Kickstarter are then just that much more loyal as well, and they really support what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I felt that allegiance myself when I funded different campaigns. And what's really interesting, what you bring up about bags being, I think that's like a actually really good category now that we're talking through it, like a really good category for Kickstarter, because you got Peak Design, you've got Boundary, you've got like a bunch of other ones. I think even Western Rise had some products on there like a while ago, although that's more like travel apparel. But I think that like that realm is, there's a lot of those customers that are totally okay with Kickstarter and it makes sense and they understand that there's a huge amount of like cost associated with bags and development and product development and that sort of thing. Caleb Ulfers or something like that. Yeah, he runs that gym bag company, and I think he does them all the time on pre-order. And I know that they have a lot of issues right now, at least from what I've seen on the internet. And he often does pre-orders, and I think he has it. He's like one of the few brands I've seen do it on a massive scale on their own site and not do third party. In terms of like not huge brand, but like middle table brand kind of thing. And so yeah,
I saw a post by him, and apologies, Kevin, I've got this wrong, but I think fairly certain he said something like some of his customers are waiting like 8 months for a pre-order product.
Yeah.
And I mean, hats off to him, because I just don't know how. I don't think I could pull that off. I just don't think I can pull that off.
Yeah, I will say, don't go into the comment section on some of his ads or Instagram, because here's what's interesting about this. I think that there's a lot of, Caleb's awesome. I've met him. He's cool. He's a cool guy. And so no shade to him. But I think in general, like on D2C Twitter and that sort of thing, or just in ecom in general, like there's a lot of focus on numbers that have a nasty side to the background of them. Like that's a super amazing cash flow, positive cash flow kind of thing. There's other brands too that I've seen, go from zero to hero in the ecom space, but then browsing their Instagram, browsing their comment section, like people are not happy with a lot of the different things. And I get it, because the comment section is always sort of a cesspool of the internet. And so not all of that's legitimate, but I think that there are some legitimacy to some of the things that people are saying out there. And so I think it's all that's gold does not glitter kind of thing. Like a lot of this glittery, cool, really amazing stuff sometimes isn't what it actually is cracked up to be in real life. And so, yeah, I don't know. Just all that to say is like, I don't know. I don't have a conclusion at the end of the day besides just show up and keep going. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going.
No, I think it's a good point. It's a really good point. I think
get our editor, cut that out. Cut that out. Just kidding. Yeah. We're doing this all raw, unedited, by the way. So yeah. Keeping it real. Yeah.
Keeping it real, but also trying not to offend anyone, but sometimes it just happens.
Yeah. Sorry, Caleb. Seriously though, sweet company.
It is.
Cool. I think. Sorry, did you have other stuff about crowdfunding? Like,
no, I think that was it really. I mean, I'm early stages of this, so just kind of working things out. But I'll definitely mention maybe in another episode how it's going or something, and give an update, and yeah, definitely we'll share all the problems as well, because I'm sure there will be.
No, it's ecom. Everything's easy. Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I think, it'll expose you to other customers and like kind of like add the legitimacy or whatever that Kickstarter offers, and it's the bag space. Like bag, like it's a thing on Kickstarter. So best of luck for sure.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, that's it for today. A lot of the conversations that we have here on the Underdog Ecom podcast are going to be more of our journey and where we're at, kind of building our businesses and our brands. We would definitely have a whole list of topics. Shoot us emails, drop comments on YouTube. Let us know what you want to hear about, because we're going to dig into a lot of the things. Like next episode, we're going to talk about some wholesale stuff, maybe some big AI ChatGPT updates that just dropped like literally 24 hours ago. So there will be lots of topics in the future, but this one was kind of just catching up on what's going on. I feel like I hit on 20% of the things that have been happening lately. So there's lots of interesting things to dig into future episodes, but let us know what you think. Give us a review. 20 out of 5 stars is much appreciated. Yeah, I don't know. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. And I just want to say, we saw the other day that we had like 4 episodes in, not counting this one, and we were I think had 10 hours watch time on YouTube. So that means a lot already. Cool. Just really cool. Really keeps us going.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. Thanks so much.